Hey, my name's Tyler Boronski. You're watching my YouTube channel where I'm sitting down with recognizable faces in entertainment and the digital space. Today's guest has accumulated almost 5 million followers across his social media platforms for his comedic sketches and POV videos online. He's one of the three faces of the Dropouts podcast with Jared Bailey and Indiana Massara. They'll bring on big-time entertainment guests to come hang out, share their story, give some advice, share some laughs, and potentially get roasted by Zach in the intro some way, somehow.
Welcome to episode 97 of Dropouts, where we just redid the intro because I already offended them. This week we got Josh Peck, who just booked a Christopher Nolan movie, so life's looking up for you. And then Joe, who has a dog who pays his bills. And he goes on hikes sometimes, so life is looking up.
Zach!
He is Zach Justice. Zach, is that a fair warning for dropout guests that anything's fair game if you come on?
I mean, you gotta get this heat. A lot of people come in. You gotta see if their ego's in check, and you gotta let them know. We're all humans at the end of the day. In 100 years, your skull will probably be in a similar place as mine. So, it is what it is.
Gotta be ready, right away.
Exactly. Yeah, I like to start the podcast with just a little joke session involving our guests. I feel like once I can get them laughing, it kind of takes down the walls of whatever they're guarding, and then I can get a more natural conversation.
Before we talk about Dropouts, though, you guys have started a new podcast recently. In the last 7 weeks or so, you've been getting it going, called DTR, Define the Relationship. You're doing this with Indiana. Speaking of Define the Relationship, you guys are still one of the internet's biggest mysteries. No one knows if you guys are dating or not. I know this isn't the day you're going to clarify if she's your girlfriend or girl space friend.
The truth is, I'm just friend zoning her. I've kind of realized that I'm just way, way, way too good for her, if that makes sense. And I feel like I'm on maybe demigod level, if they exist. And I don't know, I haven't seen them yet. So I'm really holding out for maybe an angel. Really anything that's a little bit higher than human, because a lot of people, this isn't me saying this. A lot of people are saying I'm the next step in evolution.
Yeah. I've read that somewhere. I've read that. Yeah.
If you walk down the street, you'll hear murmurs, and you might be like, I keep hearing that, but who are they saying it about? It is me. And I'm also humble.
Yeah, very humble. Very humble. Yeah. So, I hope she doesn't see this. We ain't here to break some hearts, but no, you guys have been doing this podcast. You're taking live callers and basically helping chat through their relationship situations. Why did you guys want to start this?
So kind of actually how Indiana and I got close is she was in a very toxic relationship with an ex who would stalk her and do some very poisonous things. And through about a year, 2 years, it was just kind of nurturing her to a place where she knew she didn't need to be in that toxic relationship. And I kind of learned a lot from reading and talking to other people, and then helping her with her situation, where I built up a little toolbox of advice that I can give people. And she can give the flip side, rather than it just being almost a therapist. She can give the real life. She went through it, so she knows what also the person calling in feels like. And she can kind of articulate their brain sometimes when they can't, be like, I think you're in this position. And then I can then send in some advice to see if it helps. And recently we had someone get out of a toxic relationship where he was just a little emotionally abusive. And then she went on a new date, and it went very well, apparently. She's so excited to kind of be a human being again. So that was cool.
Awesome, man. How long have you guys been contemplating starting this podcast for? I know he said started about 7 weeks ago, but how long have you guys been thinking about doing this idea and making it a real thing that you want people to be kind of involved with?
I feel like, so I came up with the idea, I think almost a year ago. And then as entertainment goes, it's people just like to take a long time to get things done, and you kind of just got to stay on the pulse of people until it finally gets out there. I found just persistence is kind of what's key, and eventually somebody will give you a chance, and that chance is Spotify. So that was cool.
Have you found yourself in a scenario where you're not quite sure what to help them with or to give the certain right advice? Have you been in that scenario yet where you're not sure if you have the right words to say basically to help them through their situation?
Not quite yet. Not saying that I know it all. It's just that I kind of try to get them, even past the problem, try to get them to a human level that we can all relate to, where it's just instilling the advice again, you're not going to be on this earth for a billion years. You've got this finite amount of time. If there's any sort of negativity or something that's going wrong, it's always worth correcting. And you'll be a lot better because of it. So
how can people call in if they want to be a part of the show?
Yeah, so to find the relationship, we have a little casting link. But every Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, we go live on Spotify Live, and you can call in from there. You just have to have the Spotify Live app, and you can come in during our Q&A portion. But if you actually have an advice issue during the show, we post the casting link. You can kind of fill out what your problem is. The producers will go through it, see if you're a good fit for the show, and they'll bring you on.
So that's one podcast. You decided, you got a lot of things on your plate right now. You've obviously been doing Dropouts for a while now, and a lot of people start podcasts. A good amount of people give up on it after a while. You guys have kept going with it and continue growing the following. I know you guys, at first it was just the one wall, with you and the guests, and now you've expanded to 2 walls, which is nice. So there you go.
Yeah.
Why do you think the podcast has been as successful as it has been?
I think honestly, we're still figuring it out. We're kind of in a middle point where we're not brand new, but we're also not, I guess, the top of the podcast. So we're in this like gray area. And right now we're really trying to find a way to break through to, be more of a household name when it comes to podcasts. Because right now, like the people that watch us, we have a super devoted viewership. I think we average like 100,000 listeners, viewers, and then more if we have guests, which is right there in the sweet spot of, just starting and then being a household name. So we're constantly trying to figure out, what's next. But the people that have watched us for a long time, I really appreciate them kind of being along for the journey because they get all the inside jokes and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, that's cool. It's like you can kind of hear it in like the way you answer that. It's like you guys still have something you want to work towards, so that's kind of a reason to keep going and keep growing it.
It's a tough formula to crack because it's hard for people to take a chance on you for an hour and stick around. It really is. And a lot of people are like, reach out to me like, hey, I want to start a podcast. How do I do it? And then they start the podcast and they get really discouraged because they get like 4 views and 3 of them are their mom and 1 of them are themselves. And it's like, nobody's listening to this. How do I get people to listen? And then it's about being creative and then consistency of kind of building a brand and building that initial fan base. So
speaking of being creative with it, it's like you've had to be creative with finding guests and getting, guests onto your show. I mean, the nice thing is you are in LA, which is a hub of where a lot of the type of people you would want for your show are there. You can meet them at premieres and parties and networking events. So I'm curious for you, how you approach your process of approaching, someone you don't know personally beforehand to try and maybe get them on your show later. I know, for example, in your Andre Drummond episode, you referenced that you randomly saw him at David Dobrik's party. So we can use him as an example. What was the process of trying to get Andre on the show from there?
I don't know. I just kind of realized if you don't ask, nothing happens. So I just try to have a real genuine conversation with people, and I don't want to make them feel like I'm using them. I wanted them to see I genuinely love basketball, so I genuinely saw value in them. And now we've gotten to a place where we also provide value. Because usually when basketball players do interviews, it's, hey, how many points did you score? Why were you good in this game? Why are you bad in this game? How can you improve? And that's kind of as deep as it goes. And then I kind of just feel like, hey, we love to have you on our podcast, actually learn about your life outside of a rebound. And we had him on, was able to talk about his upbringing, his mom, and really the things that make him tick. And I think as a true sports fan, the people that watch that, they probably didn't know a lot of things about their favorite player when it comes to that. And he had such a good time on here. He's like, this is my favorite interview I've ever done. That he's like, 2 days later, he invited me over his house, which was cool because I love basketball. And he's like, I want you to help me start a podcast. I was like, cool, let's figure it out.
That's cool. But when you first met him at the party, at David Dobrik's party, do you bring up the podcast right away? Or are you just, like you said, just introducing yourself, building, whatever, small talk at the event, and then maybe down the line you reach out to him and be like, hey, we would like you for the podcast?
No, I just went up, hey, I like your stuff. I think you're pretty funny. I like to give a compliment that's outside of what they usually do, instead of like, hey, you're a great basketball player. Hey, you're really funny. He was performing music while I was here. I really liked your music. Would like to learn more. We got a podcast. You should come on. And then when you laid out like that, he ended up DMing me rather than, so that was really cool. And we exchanged info, and now we're friends. He invited us to his birthday party, and he's a really, really cool dude.
And like you said earlier, it's like you guys at this point with your podcast, you are providing value for someone like him, and someone like him who wants to actually build like a brand. It seems like outside of basketball as well. Seems like he wants to be involved in entertainment, social media. You mentioned music with him, so it kind of makes sense at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, and then when you're at these events, you just gotta ask, and you got no in your pocket already. So if they say no, it's like, I'm probably not gonna talk to them again anyway. What does it matter?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt at the end of the day just to ask. So speaking of other guests you've had on, I'm sure a couple of these guys were ones you were excited to have as someone that appreciates comedy, on a deeper level. And I want to start with first Josh Peck, because this is a guy that's been doing it forever. I mean, this guy was on a Rosie O'Donnell show when he was like a little kid, in New York City, sneaking into clubs, basically doing stand-up performances. When you were listening to him talk in the episode, what stood out to you the most about Josh's like comedic tendencies, like that makes him really like elite at it per se?
I guess I don't know if it's as much. I mean, he knows how to put on a show. He knows how to tell a story. I think that's just from being in this industry for a while. But really stood out is anybody my age or a little bit younger, a little bit older knows who he is. There's one of the biggest shows ever on television, especially for younger people. And he still always feels a little insecure, at least when he was growing up. So I think he has a good pulse on other people feeling insecure, maybe when they're around him, or other people feeling nervous when they're around him, because he had similar thoughts about his own self and his own body image. So he does a really good job of incorporating everyone into the conversation and kind of being like, oh, this is like, without saying it, this is a safe space. Like, I'm just a person like you. Let's joke around. Very self-deprecating, which is, always an open door. So
yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. That's something I've noticed too, is like he is good at including like everyone involved. And I mean, he used to have a podcast called Curious, so he seems like he is actually curious about other people as well, and wants people, like you said, to be involved. So that's cool.
Yeah, no, I tore my ACL, hurt my knee, and he was one of the people that just followed up out of nowhere, because he just remembered us talking about it. It was like, hey, just making sure you're feeling good. So that was really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And then another one, speaking, you had recently, about a month or so ago, Jason Nash, a guy that maybe, didn't have a peak like Josh Peck did, but has been in it for so long, both from a traditional standpoint of, trying to break in as a regular stand-up comedian, and had experiences at SNL, has obviously found more success the last few years doing it online and bringing his comedy there and making more of a name for himself. So what did you take away from hearing about his kind of comedic career journey? I
mean, I feel like that's the ultimate example of persistence. He never let go of the dream. No matter, it took him a while to be recognizable. He had one line here on shows, like a little thing here that would keep him going, an internship here at SNL. But it wasn't until he was late 30s. I think I honestly know, might have even been his early 40s, where, he actually started to get his following and things started to work out. But with everything going on in his life, he had his family, he had a wife and kids. He just never gave up on his dream. And if something didn't happen, he was humble enough to go work at a stereo convention where he would just sell stereos. And I thought that was really cool, because when Vine died, he just went back to selling stereos, and he's like, I have no ego about this. It was fun while it lasted, but I'm going to keep trying, and maybe another avenue will open.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious for you, as someone that is in the comedy space already, what are some of your kind of like goals you would like to do one day? Would you like to do the more stand-up shows one day, or just live shows with an audience? Do you want to be maybe more films? Like, what are some of your personal aspirations?
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely want to try stand-up. I've been writing. I've been going to a lot of shows. A lot of my friends do stand-up. I think that's just really fun. I want to get more into the comedic podcast space. Kind of there's a little group of stand-up comedians that kind of own that market, and I want to see if I can kind of get in and, you know, befriend them and get in their circuit. And then as far as TV film goes, I got a director on one of the films I wrote. So just in the early stages of trying to finance that right now. And I was really excited. He took a chance on me. And then I got a bunch of TV film scripts that I've written and a bunch of pitch decks, and just having meetings right now, trying to package some stuff together based on, you know, what the market's kind of buying and based on, you know, what ideas I have. And I really think we're in need of another comedic show that's not scared, you know, that doesn't have an agenda, that's just trying to check off boxes. It's just a place where you come to laugh and maybe find a message, but nothing. I feel like right now it's, if you do a comedy, either it's too political or people are too scared to do the stuff that you actually joke around with when you're sitting alone with your friends, you know. Like nobody makes those comedies anymore because everybody's scared. But if you've ever been on TikTok, that's what everybody's laughing at. It's like we all are laughing at these things. No one thinks these things are. So if you make a heinous joke, it's all about intention behind it. And I think people, especially on Twitter, have kind of lost that sentiment where it's a joke, and the reason it's so outlandish is it's teaching us something. That's what's the wrong thing to do, rather than, oh, that's what you actually think, you know. For being offensive. So
yeah, it's funny. It's like one guy that I just thought of when you said that is like a Sam Morril. I'm sure you know who that is. He's like kind of a guy that he does like teeter the line of basically what's I guess would be offensive, but like his intent behind is like, it's obviously not. It's a joke. So he's just kind of good at balancing like not really offending someone, but if you really, I guess, think about the joke he's saying, I guess it could be like pretty offensive. So I don't know. It's funny. It is that, I feel like for you guys, just that constant balancing act that I guess you never really figure out the solution to, but it's just kind of the trial and error always.
I think it was Andrew Schultz, one of the comedians. He went out and he said everyone was kind of turning him down. Like, nobody wants this comedy. Like, this is too offensive. This is too racy. This is too whatever. And he's like, then why am I selling out every single show, every single weekend? He's like, there's an audience for this. They're just not the people that are complaining, you know? They're just normal people that understand jokes are jokes, and we're just here to laugh, and we laugh at each other. I think that's more equal than anything else, you know?
Yeah, and didn't he just like release his own special like by himself without like a network or, you know, it really like
he
on his own?
Buy his special back from whatever streamer he sold it to, and I think he did like 3x, maybe 5x of what he bought it back for. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome for sure. All right, another big thing for you coming up soon. It's Playlist Live Orlando. This from September 2nd to the 4th. We spoke with a couple other creators recently ahead of the event, Trey Mackay, Severin. Now we're speaking with Zach. I believe I saw in one of your stories you said this will be your first convention where people are coming to meet you. So what are you looking forward to most about the event?
I mean, a few years ago I worked TanaCon, like I was the labor there.
Really?
Yeah. So while VidCon was going on, TanaCon was trying to rival that, and I laid out all the guardrails. Like I was in the sun all day, and I was just kind of just a hired help for the day or the 2-3 days, whatever I was there. And then now I went to VidCon, but this is the first one I've been invited to as a featured creator, where I actually have like a panel. I have a meet and greet, and you know, there's anxiety that comes with that, but it's also how happy would I be sitting, laying out guardrails if I could kind of whisper to my past self, hey, you're going to be invited to one of these in a few years. And, you know, I don't have the highest expectations. I'm just giddy that I've kind of taken this step. But I don't know if anybody's going to come to the meet and greet. I don't know if anybody's going to know me as much as the other people, but I just got to know this is where I'm at right now. And it gives me a good starting point so I can see the progression, you know.
There will be people at the meet and greet for sure. It's definitely a crazy event. I know Indiana's done it before in the past. Has she told you anything about her prior experiences being there, what it's like?
Not too much. She just said, you know, it was fun, and she enjoys the parties and whatever it is. And I mean, my favorite thing in the world to do is network and just talk to people and build relationships. Not even in a social climbing way. I just genuinely have interest in what other people do and what they're all about and how we can work together. And so it's very, very cool for me.
Going back to the TanaCon point, have you told Tana that before, that you worked her event before, and in different
No, but
capacity.
I also saw her at David's party, and I went up to her. I was like, "Hey, you got to come on the podcast. I got a story I want to tell you that you don't know." I never got paid for it, so I want to bring that up. So she'll Venmo me. But her assistant, she's like, "Yeah, I talked to my assistant." So I talked to her assistant, and then her assistant just got back to me recently. So we'll try to set it up. I heard she's a little hard to lock down at times, but we'll see if we can do
Yeah,
it.
she can be tough. So I interviewed her once before. It was definitely the most entertaining, I think, interview I've done, or at least it was a wild experience talking to her. But yeah. All right, before we wrap it up, I have some quick questions for you, rapid fire per se. First thing that comes to your mind, a little elaboration on why, and then just move on to the next topic. So
Perfect.
you're good with that. All right. If you could only keep one social media app, what would it be? The rest is deleted. You got one to keep.
I go TikTok. That's where most of my audience is. It just makes sense monetarily.
Yeah, makes sense. Probably one I would do as well. If you had, I know you mentioned earlier you're a big sports fan. So if you had a time machine to take you back to a sports moment that happened, which one would you choose to witness in person?
I would probably go back to the 2012 National Championship for Kentucky basketball. Kentucky basketball is my favorite sport in the world. So I watch Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, take that championship home in New Orleans in 2012. So yeah, that's what it would be.
Have you met AD since being in LA?
I have not, but I met a few of the Kentucky players recently, so that was pretty cool.
All right, this one, I'll give you some time for this one because you got to pull it up on your phone. What was your last Google search?
Ooh, I looked up ceiling fan, modern ceiling fan, because I'm changing up my ceiling fan. It's time. A lot of people say, I'm not ready for it, but I know I am. I'm ready to take that step in my life.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I love it. All right. Dream comedian to see their comedy show in person.
I mean, I've been lucky to kind of see a lot of the people I really like. I would always see Theo Vaughn again. I think he's the best when you're in an intimate crowd and seeing him live. He just has kind of an energy in the room. Really want to lock him down for the podcast. I'm trying to find a connection there.
I like that one a lot. I like Theo's stuff is awesome. All right, last one for you. And we've talked about already a few potential podcast guests you would like to have on. Who is the dream one that you've kind of, it's been the white whale?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of that whole crew of Bobby Lee and Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura, Theo, Andrew Schultz. Just that entire crew would be really cool because that's kind of what got me into podcasting, what got me into listening, and what got me into wanting to start. So
yeah, just bring all the comedians. I think that would be the best.
I mean, those are the people I like to talk to the most. Just they've got like such interesting brains, and you never know where the conversation's going to go. So
he is Zach Justice. He's the host of the Dropouts podcast, as well as DTR, Define the Relationship. And you can catch him in Orlando at the beginning of September, meeting all of you guys, hopefully. So Zach, thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.